And nope. But apparently we're good with no voice recognition stuff right now.
Yeah, the team stuff.
Till we need a transcript.
Oh,
It's a fact.
I got mine set up.
It's very much a fact.
As happens.
Oh, I haven't done
I don't know what it's supposed to do though. Like, was
I gotta tell you, did you? So
I can't
Remember,
like
this
log
is
in
on.
with it or anything.
that's fine. That's fine. You may recall at one of the meetings, and I say this frequently when we have public hearings, that I tell the folks who are testifying that we need to have them speak clearly and identify themselves. Because at some point, the words that they say at this public hearing could end up printed out on a transcript,
Mhm.
put in front of a judge.
Mm.
Those words that I said in that way ended up printed out on the put in front of a judge.
Yes, they did.
Like that happened. And I thought about that as I was saying it. It came to pass.
Okay, took a minute.
I don't know if I'm feeling a speak.
What?
So I don't know if I'm feeling a speaking role tonight. I don't know. I don't think it's connected. Oh, alrighty then.
Brenda, can I just give all this to you now?
Sure.
Blockchain.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I gotta keep track of it.
Mhm. Golden eyes.
Mr. Roder. Has this ever happened to you?
Hey, you?
Yeah.
Oh no, can I take a screenshot of that?
Okay. Your kid says, I need some money, and you're like, okay, here you go. And then they send it back
Nice.
afterwards.
No, that's never happened. See? They're band-aid out,
Hey, I'm gonna have to ask my.
Brenda, you ready?
Ready when you are, sir.
rubbing it in.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for January 20th, 2026. Development impact fee for a regular meeting this evening. We do not have any public hearings on the agenda this evening. We'll just go ahead and run through the agenda. We do have an established quorum and looking to approve minutes for December 16th.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve meeting minutes for December 16th, 2025.
Rob? First by Rob. Second by Billy. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Sorry, aye, so that council gets happy with that. Recognizing persons not on the agenda. Billy?
What I want to bring up, as you may or may not know, I've been working through school for the last, seem like 10 years, my PhD. So the reason I'm asking this, I'm going to be soliciting the Planning and Zoning Board as well as the public on my research paper. The research paper is housing affordability in Idaho. We're second in the nation, as you know, for affordability. And the paper is going to explore both quantitative and quantitative data, which is metrics and personal interviews on how they correlate. And once I'm done with them, I'm going to triangulate all the information. So I'm doing the research on Mountain Home, Star, and Ammon. So the goal of this afterwards is to prepare the report, get it passed to the committee. They come back and give you the findings I see from different communities. So like I was talking to Brenda earlier, say Star does this, and we don't do that, and we benchmark it or vice versa. It's not going to solve the affordable crisis because it's going to take a lot of variables to figure that out. But if it gives public administrators that we are the tools to make us smarter to kind of mitigate and help it along, that's the goal of the paper. Right now, the related literature for any affordability is always on big cities. So this is kind of, I don't want to say groundbreaking because I'm not saying that, but it's one of the first or few that's really looking at Idaho because everything's been Chicago, LA, Seattle, all the major reports from scholarly literature. So this is where there's a good deficit of the literature for Mountain Home or for Idaho to look at the affordability crisis. As you know, the last 10 years has been unaffordable. And just kind of give you a number of a shock in all of it. Ammon numbers in 10 years, their prices went up $278,000. In 5 years, they went up to 210. So there's some different variables with COVID and all that plays into that one we won't get into, but that's what I'm looking at is both the data and talking to doing focus groups and interviews on that. So the reason I have to do this by the school, I have to publicly announce, and you will see an email from me in a very formal tone. I'm going to do this as well with the city council, probably next week or the week after, next time they meet. I already talked to Tiffany about that, but I'm doing this for all the 3 cities and to gain much information. Then again, once I get that information triangulated and put it into a nice finding report.
Sounds good.
Yep, that's all I got.
So we're looking forward to a email from you?
Yep.
Perfect. Anybody else? Hearing none. We'll just run it down. Conflict of interest or ex parte contact declarations?
Negative.
Hearing none. No public hearing this evening. No new business. Let's go down to the old business. An action item for the finding of facts to annex and zone to R4 residential.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve findings of facts for PZ 2532 annex and zone to R4 residential.
I got a first.
I second that.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Action item number 2 would be finding of facts with preliminary plat for the Aslan Ranch subdivision.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the findings of fact for, I can't find it. Sorry, PZ 25-33.
We have a first. We have a second.
Second.
Here's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Third action item is the finding of facts for the annex and zone to I2 heavy commercial.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve findings of facts PZ 25-39.
First.
Second.
Here's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay.
Mr. Chair, was that second by Mr.?
Yes.
Thank you.
Department head items this evening. Monthly building print. Any questions on those?
No.
No. Okay, let's move down then to the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee items. We have an action item to review and recommendation comments to amend the existing impact fee study and capital improvement plans. A request to amend the existing impact fee study and capital improvement plan, updating the CIP report to clarify the land use assumptions over a 20-year period and establishing timelines for CIP projects as required by state statute. Review of the proposed amended parks and streets impact fee. Or Jeff?
I'm going to try and bring this presentation online here for us. We have Colin Weenie with us. He's with Tishler Biss, and he has met with staff and went through the amendment with us and the things that we needed to amend to bring it up to more in compliance with state codes.
I think before we get to that, do you, as members of the P and Z Commission, have any questions of me or staff regarding your role as the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee, what that entails? Did we go through that with you once already? I don't remember.
How about you give us a refresher?
Okay. He's going to cover a lot of this, but here's the deal is to assess development impact fees, which are fees to pay for capital improvements that are attributable to growth. So they're the things you have to build or buy to service the things that are the new growth in a community. In order to protect against just making it up or assessing exorbitant fees. Actually, this was born out of a case in Teton County in the 80s, where they're like, we're going to charge you so much, you're not going to build a house. That'll stop growth. This was hammered out so that it incorporates protections at every level of the way so that they can't be exorbitant. And so there's statutory provisions in there where a qualified professional has to prepare some of the stuff. In order to adopt a capital improvement plan, you have to have a public hearing for it. You have to have a listing of when you're going to build and when you're going to, how you're going to collect those fees. They have to be expended over a certain amount of time. The role that the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee plays is a consulting and what was the other one? In coordination with the governing body to review this capital improvement plan to review financial reports and each year to update or get an update from the city on the status of the expenditures. And so that's your role there. Your duplicate role as a member of the P&Z Commission is this capital improvement plan is also a component of the comprehensive plan. So your hearing level activity in regard to this would be your hearing on amending the comprehensive plan to incorporate a capital improvement plan. But the capital improvement plan itself and its public hearing for its adoption is the governing body. Your role is to review this and write written findings or your written comments on the capital improvement plan. How's
Any
that?
questions?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Brenda, should I sit over there with the green mic?
That's fine.
Is this fine? Okay.
If you prefer to sit over there, you may, but yeah.
And you have a remote, or should I just kind of?
Music,
Yeah.
next page. I'm sorry.
If I get-
We're learning. We're learning.
Back to high school. Just
Right.
next.
Right.
For the Army.
Next slide. Yeah, so again, Colin, I guess we could go to the next slide. Section there, yeah. Just a little bit more about the firm. I'm down in Boise. 10 years or so. Experience throughout the state.
Sorry.
But yes, so this is our firm's experience throughout the state, working with cities and county fire districts. But more importantly, also shows how effective these are throughout the state. If you sort of stay in the know of municipal finance in Idaho, there's just been further limitations on how much they can raise property tax to fund actions. Now we're really only speaking in capital. That's a small slice of the larger pie, but it does help, mitigate some of those growing costs when it comes to funding our infrastructure. Next slide. So there's a few. Thank you. So there's a few slides I just wanted to go through and kind of give everyone just a refresher on impact fees. Jeff did a good job of kind of explaining that, but want to get a little bit more into the weeds just so everyone understands what they are and what they aren't. So these are one-time payments that new growth pays to offset their new demand on infrastructure. Existing homes don't pay an impact fee, existing businesses don't. So those new subdivisions, new business parks, in a sense, bringing in more traffic, more police calls, more visitations to your parks, and to continue our levels of service, we have to expand that infrastructure accordingly. Typically when the building permit is granted, and we put together this nexus study. And so that was done in 21. And the plan is to move forward. We have to update these every 5 years. So do a big comprehensive sort of nexus study later this year, I think sort of springboarding off of this effort. But those nexus studies show 3 things: need, benefit, and proportionality. So we need to ensure that there's a need for impact fees, that you have this capital improvement plan, the CIP, that has a growth related portion that we can say, hey, you're growing at a good clip. There's these new parks, new roads, new police station infrastructure expansions associated with that growth. And so there's the need to collect those impact fees to fund those projects. We have to ensure that there's a benefit in these programs. So you may see in like large geographies, different service areas. I know, for example, like Ada County Highway District was looking at sort of like east and west kind of 2 service areas. But if you're thinking about a city, most of the time the infrastructure we're talking about are providing citywide benefit. And so there wouldn't be a need to sort of break out the city in that analysis. But also there's a time element to these revenues and expenditures. So state statute says 8 years. So we have to, when we collect the dollars, we have to spend it within 8 years. It does say 11 years in extraordinary circumstances. I don't think a city yet has defined, or the court has defined what extraordinary circumstance means. But I don't, when we're doing these studies, I really want to make sure that our the communities that we're working with are using these dollars in a timely fashion, right? That new homeowner essentially is going to be paying that impact fee, and that we're spending those on new park expansion, new roads, in a timely fashion, that we're not just stockpiling this cash without using it. And lastly, the fee has to be proportionate, and so you see a number of land uses, development types within the fee schedules, because single family has a different demand than multifamily, which is different than retail and office and industrial. So you want to make sure that the fee is proportionate to that. Next slide. A little bit more, just kind of drilling home the point that this is for new infrastructure. Unfortunately, if we are growing, there's a need for more police officers or new roads that we have to maintain. But those sort of maintenance or operating costs are impact fee eligible. So we're really thinking about sort of net new infrastructure that's expanding the capacity of the system. Got some examples there for parks. So, brand new, net new playground would be 100% impact fee eligible. One-to-one replacement would not be. So if you got a rusty slide, that wasn't caused because of new subdivisions that came along, right? That's a maintenance and repair cost that should be funded through other revenues. But you might see instances where there's sort of a mixture of revenues. So if you're replacing something but expanding the capacity, that added capacity could be funded through impact fees. Next slide. A little bit more impact fees in Idaho. They're kept in separate interest-bearing accounts. Allows us to make sure that there's transparency and these dollars are used appropriately. Spent within 8 years. Have to have an impact fee advisory committee every year. Hopefully that committee's meeting to review the financials, in a sense, the collection of those dollars and if they're being expended in the next fiscal year. Need those capital improvement plans. Updated every 5 years, and also the infrastructure we're thinking about has to have a 10-year useful life or a long. And state statute sort of limits in a bit, what infrastructure we can fund. So utilities, water, wastewater, stormwater's on there, transportation, parks, and public safety. Jeff went into a good bit on your role here as an advisory committee, but it has to be made up of at least 5 folks living in the city, 2 of which are part of sort of the building industries, construction industries. It's along with providing, kind of reviewing the validity of the study. You'll get a final fee amount, right? Sort of a maximum supportable fee amount. And we're hoping that, with folks on the board that understand sort of the pro formas when it comes to construction, hey, we're introducing a new fee. Is that at a rate that's going to stifle growth, right? And make sure that the fees that we're introducing aren't going to be hampering development. And so, meeting once a year, but then during those 5-year big updates, we'd probably be meeting 2 or 3 times to go through those assumptions. So looking at the CIPs, growth assumptions, priorities, fee levels, all the sort of nuts and bolts of how the sausage is made. Next slide. So that, long story short, is that the effort we're trying to accomplish now was just an administrative update to the existing report. The hope is that, say, come springtime, I mean, just in a few months, we could kind of springboard this effort into that 5-year total update. So we're just hoping to add in some additional clarification and details into the 2021 report. From there, I was going through sort of the numbers and so just noted some small little tweaks that needed to happen from a sort of number perspective. So you're gonna see a few new numbers there, but really hoping to sort of not address the sort of full analysis of the 21 report, but just add and clarify some things. And then in a few months, we'll just go through the whole rigmarole of updating every element of it. So along with, what did I say? Yeah, clarification of the land use assumptions. We wanted to include the estimated year of construction for the CIP projects. Streets had that, but parks was just missing that, and so was police. We just wanted to include that in there. And then actually in 2023, the city updated their street CIP, and because you can do that in the interim years, you don't have to wait for the 5-year mark. If something big has changed, you can update the CIPs before then. And so I just kind of want to reflect this in this sort of updated report. And there was a small clerical error that I found, and so just correcting that. During the review, I also, the report here only has a park impact fee for single family homes, but the city's charging for a single family and a multifamily fee. So I just wanted to sort of update the analysis in the report to reflect that. Before I get into sort of the sort of changes and CIPs and fees, were there any questions on kind of impact fee fundamentals or the sort of effort for this update?
Okay. My question to you is this. So impact fees are legal, right? If they fund the capital improvements that serve the development paying the fee, is that correct?
In Mountain Home, we have one identified service area, which is the entire city limits.
Yes.
So a particular development may not necessarily have an improvement that services only that development.
Right.
So these are citywide, but
Okay.
yes, but if there are so many new residents, so if your fee or if your service level is measured by residents, so if you have so many acres of parks per 1,000 people, for example, and the city grows by 1,000 people, then you need that incremental number of increased acres of parks.
Okay.
So, yes.
Right. And I mean, and I imagine it's probably the same thing for services like police, fire, that sort of thing. But
Yes.
but I guess what I'm trying to get after is that development is paying for development, basically.
Yes.
Is paying for the added infrastructure of the development. So whether that's a new well or that's a new water treatment facility or anything like that, it goes towards things that benefit the development itself.
Currently, our impact fees cover fire, police, parks, and streets.
Okay,
They do not yet cover wastewater and water.
got it. Okay.
Any other questions? Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, good. Yeah. And I guess I'm probably halfway there. So a key sort of element of impact fee studies is land use assumptions. State statute says we have to, I mean, it's actually kind of gray here. It lists a couple different time frames. And so it says 10 years and it says 20, and then it says 20 plus. And the previous analysis, did fall back on the comprehensive plan land use map, as that was sort of dictating that, or fulfilling the 20-year time frame. But just to add, a little bit more detail into the analysis, I expanded upon the 21 projections that went from 21 to 2031. So I expanded that to 2041, just keeping the same growth rate steady, just to make sure that we're sort of conforming as much as possible to that 20-year mark in the state statute. So what is that? Over the next 20 years, almost 75% increase in homes from 21 to 41. So certainly a lot of growth occurring and continuing to grow in Mountain Home. Police CIP, no changes there. Just added some years to the column right there in the middle. So year of construction for the new facility, or expanding the police station, 2028 to 2030. The number is actually, the cost estimates haven't changed. It still reflects the 21 study. So this again would be something that we're going to be updating and bring current, including all the inflation that has occurred since then, when we do the comprehensive update in a few months. So you'll see, if you weren't on the board in 21, kind of how we work through it is we have the projects, the year, a little bit more if it's like adding square footage or adding police units or vehicles, and then a total CIP value, and then we determine what the growth portion of that is, so what's kind of the added capacity. So you can kind of follow that in the column. So you get CIP value and then kind of the growth related portion. So we go from 4 million to 2.3 million, where the other funding sort of covers the difference there. Moving along to fire, same changes here. We just updated the year of construction. So a lot of the sort of new facilities going to come along in 2028, 2030. Need to add some engines and squad vehicles with those new stations coming along. What was the total value here? 6.5 million. Of that, 4.5 million is considered growth related. Onto parks, we added the year there, but also then sort of bolstered the description of the park amenities that we're adding. So a lot of this CIP was focused on what was that, the 12th South Street, South 14th Street East, potentially recreation center. A lot of this sort of being mixture between growth and addressing current needs. So we had about $11 million there, and only 3.6 was related to growth. Moving on to, the park impact fee calculation. And so we had that 3.6 million as sort of the gross share. And then we attributed 89% of demand to single family, 11% to multifamily. And then so of the 3.6, 3.2 was related to single family development, 400,000 to multifamily. Then we compared that to the projection of new single family, multifamily development over the next 10 years. So all you do is just divide that sort of related cost with the number of new units projected in 10 years to get the maximum fee amounts, which is $1,549 for a single family home, $830 per multifamily unit. When we were sort of going through our review, we did notice that the city ordinance actually lists the fee as $1,146 per single family home. And I think we determined that was another sort of clerical error when the ordinance was being put together. Now, the thing here with this analysis here is actually there's a maximum, there's a ceiling of $1,549 that the city could justifiably charge for a single family home. Working with staff, though, is there are some private dedications coming along that sort of going above and beyond growth to help fund park CIPs. So they're comfortable at this moment, kind of in this interim before we do the big update to keep with the 1,146 for a single family home. But that would be recommendation, input gathered by the board here. You'd want us for the city to adopt that maximum instead of that lower amount. Lastly, we have streets. I believe you guys probably had seen the CIP update a few years ago. The initial 2021 CIP totaled $10 million, but the city did remove a few streets just to sort of priorities that reduced the CIP to $4.2 million. So we just sort of updated the years of construction there. One of the projects, even North 6th East widening, actually occurred last year. So we wanted just to sort of reflect that in the CIPs.
Can I?
Oh, yeah,
Real
sure.
quick. You may have heard of this street, Autumn Drive. Anyway, that had been on there and was quickly taken off. So not it. So.
Not it.
yeah. But and again, I think streets is a big one that is a high priority for many communities, and so we would be reevaluating each one of these projects during that update to make sure that we're addressing the community needs for new roads, but also the costs. I mean, these seem pretty low when I'm thinking costs, collecting what's needed to CIP.
Can I interject really quickly? So if that project was removed because that annexation was no longer immediate, right? That's why it was removed?
No, it was removed because it's not in the city.
Correct.
It's
But
not even.
was there a plan for annexation to occur and that's why it was on the list?
No.
Okay. All right.
At the time it was put on there, I believe there was ambiguity about whether or not it was or could become a city street.
Got it. Because it is a private road.
Correct.
And that's owned by the people that live on that street.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
And that was also, I think, part of the ambiguity as to whether it could have been eligible. But once we determined that its legal status, it was like that can't even be on there.
Okay. So let's say hypothetically that we had a public road. Okay, and it's within the county and we know that it is slated for immediate annexation within the next 2 to 5 years. Would the city take on basically something like that or an improvement like that?
There are ways to cover the cost of that improvement, including having the developer bear them
Uh-huh.
or engaging in an annexation agreement that requires payment of improvements to that road to city standards
Okay.
that are outside the ambit of impact fees.
Okay, got it.
So.
And I don't have the hard numbers on me, but we essentially reduced this CIP from 10 million to 4 million. So the resulting fee now reflects the 4 million, right? A lower need, a lower cost that we're trying to recoup.
Got
So
it.
the new fee reflects that.
I have one.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So like these impact fees are paid, like you said, when there's new development, right? But it's only for the new development areas, that property in there.
No, so it would be like in the CIP, right? We have four widening projects there, some intersection improvements, and all those projects are expanding sort of the citywide transportation network. So it's maybe that you would have development like adjacent along these roads, but everyone's sort of chipping in because those are sort of large bottlenecks, right? That everyone's sort of chipping in to help address the added traffic.
All right, but they, like, the residents aren't paying for this. It's all coming from the new developers.
Well, a portion is not impact fee eligible. So that, that's important sort of caveat is looking at this figure here, 5.3 million is the total cost of the CIP. But then 4.2 is the growth cost. So there's $1 million there in a sense that, the engineers sort of decided that that portion wasn't growth related, like future growth related, that there was a deficiency in the system. And those deficiencies can't be funded with impact fees. So there's especially in a lot of communities across the state and the country, I'm hearing, hey, can we make these fees higher? Like what can we do to get the new housing to pay as much as possible, right? But we still want to make sure it's defensible. And that means, reviewing these projects and if there's portions of the project that aren't expanding capacity, that other dollars are coming in. I mean, they could be grant dollars. I mean, that's a common one for roads, but parks, that portion there, maybe grant funded, yeah, but probably some general fund as well.
So like for our older neighborhoods that have really bad streets and no lighting, this would not help.
Probably not.
Those.
Yeah, because all of those costs, I mean, just following state statute, right? It is ongoing maintenance and deferred maintenance. Now, if you're improving, say it's a 2-lane road, you add a 3rd lane, and during that process, you reconstruct the existing 2, right? Bring that up to standard. That 3rd lane would be impact fee eligible, but again, most of that would be from
Because
other
that's
revenue
accommodating
sources.
growth, basically.
Yeah, because I've seen like houses in the middle of old neighborhoods, new houses, and then those have sidewalks, and then the other ones don't.
Yeah.
So
Well, that goes back to what kind of Jeff was saying, is that there's also other development standards, and says, okay, if you're, if you're constructing new today, here's a list of things that you need to do to sort of bring up your property up to current standard, right? And so they have to address what's like on their property, right? But it usually doesn't go beyond that.
That makes sense. Then.
Mr. Chairman. So a couple points there too. Some older neighborhoods, so impact fees, new development is there's a definition. So the statute is heavily definition laden. So the definition of development doesn't include, for example, tearing down an existing single family dwelling and replacing it with a new single family dwelling. So you could replace it and it's 1 for 1. You're going to have 2.8 or 3.2 or however many people technically come in a single family dwelling. But if you tear down a single family dwelling and replace it with a bunch of extra units, and then those extra units put an extra demand on a street that is arguably currently deficient, it still could be to some degree impact fee eligible to improve that street because you're going to have more trips on that street. With respect to sidewalks, the city has an ordinance requiring if you have more than 10,000, or maybe we've updated the amount in improvements, and there are not currently curb gutter and sidewalk, you're required to put it in, or to alleviate the absurd island of sidewalk, which I think there was one on American Legion or on Sunset Strip for a while, but now it's contiguous, I think. they can wait until they get contiguous with sidewalk, but they have to post a bond or no, they record it with the county, their commitment that when a sidewalk reaches them, they'll put it in. But that's how sidewalks are kind of done differently than the rest of this. Sorry.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a lot of it's like you kind of go through this case by case, right? Right. It's kind of we're getting the sense of what they are, but then there's all these different scenarios that require Jeff and I to sort of and Brenda to work together. Yeah, yeah. Now just finishing up streets. I did notice from the work done in 2023 that final impact fee amount actually was miscalculated by $40,000. What was 4,200 and $30,000, let's say, should have been $4,218,000. So there was just a sort of summing error in their worksheet. And just as we're sort of uplifting and bringing everything current, I wanted to address that in this admin update. And so that does reduce the fee slightly. So that's $9 per unit for single family, $5 for multifamily, and 1 cent per square foot for non-residential development. So just kind of making sure that everything is conforming to sort of best practices and state law. I'm recommending that the ordinance reflect these changes. After that, just kind of the summary. Not huge changes. I mean, just kind of what we were talking about in the changes from the street side of things. Also, this final amount for single family reflects that $1,500 per unit from the park impact fee. So again, that's kind of the ceiling, the maximum that this report would support, but we can adopt a lower than that number. I think my last slide are next steps. So looking to get recommendation and comments by the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee on that park impact fee, if you want to sort of keep it where it is right now at that $1,100 mark or move it up. Any other recommendations or input on these CIPs, all of that will be brought forward to City Council probably next month. And then a few months after that, I'm sure we'll meet several times for the comprehensive update. I'm sort of repeating myself there, but we just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. So yeah, just open up for discussions now.
Perfect. Hey, Commissioner, you give us the Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes.
Speak freely.
One question, looking at the population estimates. What page are those?
Eight.
Yeah. So are you projecting this off of the American Community Survey from the U.S. Census? Like, what if you have I guess this kind of go back to my research. What if you have a big explosion? We got variable with a Micron and other developments coming in to the Treasure Valley. They move over here, it goes up twice as much. So how does that play with the whole impact kind of?
Yeah. Well, I say this a lot, is if there's a game changer that occurs between the 5-year updates that we didn't comprehend when we were putting together those CIPs, that the recommendation would be the city update sooner. Just to your point, if a big employer comes in, big annexation were to occur, right? It just thinks that really moved the needle from a CIP perspective. Then you'd want to potentially go back to the drawing board to do that, to address that, right? To probably maybe separate out the CIP or pull through the CIP to make sure you're covering.
They're like a tripwire, because just looking at the present data, like 2023 population, which is probably not totally accurate, and 2024 is not populated yet. So if there's like a 10%, I guess my question is, like, say it goes on, let's say 16,000, but yet it jumps up to 20,000, or is there like a trip line that we should sit down again and say, hey, we just had this huge growth. What do we need to do for that?
Nothing stated, right? I think it's it would probably come from, it's a little kind of qualitative, right? It would be like the department heads, like parks or public works or police or fire, be like, whoa, like we did not, suspect
big
that we're
uptake.
gonna need, now we're gonna need 3 fire stations
Right.
instead of just one in a substation kind of thing.
So there's a couple things, ways that this is anticipated, both in the statute and then by, like you was talking about. So each meeting you have a listing of all the building permits, single family, multifamily. So you kind of got your finger on the pulse of that growth. But you're required as the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee to do these things according to 678205-4. You're established to review, monitor, you're supposed to monitor and evaluate implementation of the capital improvement plan to see what they're doing to be building things. And then advise the governmental entity of the need to update or revise land use assumptions, the capital improvement plan and development impact fees. So this is an ongoing daily thing. At any point, you can jump in and advise the government, the governing body, and say, whoa, we're getting so many of these. Are these assumptions correct? Conversely, the growth we projected that was going to be explosive didn't happen.
Right.
And you're free to render those reports to the governing body at any point. So you can do it as frequently or as infrequently as you wish. 5 years, we have to update it. You have to annually review this capital improvement plan. And that capital improvement plan must include land use assumptions and growth projections. And so if those become incorrect over time, then you can say we need to adjust this. That's your statutory mandate.
So again, I understand that point, but where would we get, I guess, being in this body, how would we know outside of just personal observation that, we got 2 or 3 big monolithic subdivisions coming in, the growth is going up? How do we, outside of talking to Parks and Recs, where we need to know to sit down again?
So
That makes sense.
you also happen to be, you're very close to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
A little bit.
So you attend their meetings pretty frequently.
Okay. Yep.
And as a Planning and Zoning Commission, you get all of the building permits reports. So you'll know before it happens. And so you can under Twin Powers activate, turn into the other commission, be like, that P&Z just approved the subdivision. We better adjust our growth assumptions. And then
So is there currently a place where this collective data is so we can see it instead of gathering?
you have, anyway, I see them in the packets, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the building permits there's a monthly building permit report that's in your packets, every time we meet.
But we don't have it if I wanted to pull for the last 6 months, right? We're oh,
Aggregate data for
yeah.
year to year of that.
So that we're okay, if the growth is supposed to grow, whatever, 10%, right? And we're hey, we're halfway in and we're already at 8%, that something would flag you to be hey, go and look at this.
Yeah.
Because
at any point you can get how many building permits you've gotten in a year versus the approved subdivision. So that's another one that the water or the public works department keeps. And I think they've got a declining balance for EDUs for water connections. I recently asked the city clerk how many households we have so all that data is available upon request. In fact, the governmental entity shall make available to the advisory committee upon request all financial and accounting information, professional reports in relation to other development and implementation of land use assumptions, the CIP, and periodic updates of the CIP. So whenever that's kind of got me curious now, right? How many? Because I went back and looked at some of the growth assumptions that both the city and the county had for way back. And because I was on the city council in 2008 when we first implemented impact fees, and they were nuts. And then none of the economy went in the tank, and we got $40.
Oh, dang.
Or maybe 50, but,
Here's might be a squirrel question. So if there's a subdivision that's outside the county or outside the city limits,
Mhm.
say Purple Sage, they built 60 houses for lack of an argument.
right.
But they put a burden on the dog park, or they put a burden on everything else. We're pretty much
Yep.
no
Nope.
getting anything from the county then
Right.
on that.
That's right.
Unless we do impact fee like you would do at the pool to pay to play then. But anything else like the dog park or whatever, it's pretty much.
The one service that is for city residents, there might be other ones, but the one that comes to mind and that is expressly for city residents and is the library.
That's kind of
The
where.
rest of them are just public, streets, fire. Yeah. Police, we'll arrest you whether you're from the county or the city.
That's good to know.
Just to add to it, I know Caldwell and Nampa does this during the annual review. They'll have like fire chief, police chief, parks director, public works come in, talk about their CIPs if there's changes. And that would be like an opportunity as well, right? Like, and everyone's sort of talking the same language at that point too, during that meeting. It's more work, admittedly, having those guys come in, but it does help, inform decisions.
That's a great idea. I think that's a really great idea. Kind of just some of the feedback that I bring is when it comes to developers, like the actual developers, and the pattern that I've seen every time here is we approve these subdivisions and then we have them on the books as approved. But then, Toll Brothers sold to CDH, right? And then Fall Creek has changed hands, I don't know how many times. And then there's just several subdivisions where the initial developer's like, just kidding. And I don't know necessarily if it's because of the impact fees when it comes time for building permits or what. And so as an industry professional, I guess my concern would be that we are causing entry-level builders to potentially cut corners because they have to pay all of these impact fees. That we are potentially having higher end builders just completely walk away because their higher finishes are going to cost extra. And now on top of that, they have the higher fees. And then also we're going to have basically less of a market mix because our mid-market housing is going to shrink. Does that make sense? So I understand that we have like this exponential growth and that pricing has basically shifted a lot. But then these developers are also, because the developers that talk to us, these developers also are dealing with things like higher labor costs, higher supply costs, they're also dealing with all of that on top of us also potentially raising our impact fees by $2,000, which is what I saw, unless I'm wrong. So I think that's the concern that I have. I'm all for sustainable growth and everything as well, but I'm also worried that we're going to be excluding developers that are wanting to bring in a different housing mix, which kind of defeats the purpose of affordable housing.
I took some time this afternoon and I did a little quick Google on where the fees kind of like range. And everything in the packet is a conservative estimate of pretty much all our surrounding areas. So, I mean, even if the developers do come in, they're going to be looking at, in some places, even in Ada County, higher impact fees than what they have here. So even what they're offering in this packet, it's a very conservative, sometimes even more on the lower end of what's being suggested in the surrounding areas.
And I'm afraid, and I understand what you're saying, and anybody else that would look at it would probably say the same thing, but we're comparing apples to oranges because we're not Ada County, we're Elmore County. And Mountain Home only has, 15,000 people. We only have so many amenities. Most people can afford to, or the people that want to live in Boise can afford to live in Boise and can afford those impact fees. The people that want to move to Mountain Home are looking for more affordable housing. And this is just, again, from industry knowledge. They're looking for more affordable housing. We're a bedroom community for Boise, so a lot of people will live here and work over there. So I understand where you're coming from, especially if we just look at it from a complete like numbers perspective. But people don't move to Boise for the same reason that they move to Mountain Home. Does that make sense?
I think the only way around the affordability is doing the PUDs and upzoning, because that's papers on, basically just, that was my paper, thank you.
I think we should talk.
Because I mean, there's a market entry that they gotta bear to come in, and it's just like anybody can go grocery shopping. If Doritos is $5 and Walmart chips are $3, and they made by the same people. And that's the same, like you saying, it's like, we gotta have developers, we can't scare them away either, but there's gotta be a balance between,
Sustained growth and yeah,
but not price out that middle market either.
exactly.
But the ones that have switched, like you said, like they switch from one developer to the other, like why are they switching? Is it because of impact fees or is it because of something else?
So the feedback that I've heard is basically that they can't fund it. So if they can't fund it, I would assume it's probably, I mean, the whole package. You know, maybe it's labor costs, maybe it's supply costs, maybe it's all of it, maybe it's all of it tied up.
Here's the problem. You cut impact fees, that means you're gonna cut all the things that these.
I'm not saying cut.
We're also looking at this and you're saying it's too high. Unless you charge the amount that is needed, the city is going to lose revenue in order to maintain all of the areas in the city that need to be maintained because of the impact from the development. If you start lowering the price of the impact fees, taxes go up. Why do taxes go up? Because you got to find the money somewhere else. So now you're putting the burden on the citizens of Mountain Home instead of actually looking at the burden needs to be on the developers because they're the ones that are causing the problem for the county or within the city, excuse me.
That's a double-edged sword, because if you bring say a monolithic subdivision in with 400 houses, you lower the impact fee, the city's gonna gain 400 houses of property taxes they didn't have before. Through perpetuity, I can't say that word right.
Jeff?
Perpetuity.
3, 8, 9.
HB.
Yeah. 8%. 3% annual increase in budget and 5% for new construction and annexation. So to the extent that any new construction or annexation exceeds 5% of that already on the rolls, the city does not get any additional tax revenue. That's House Bill 389 from 2021. So it doesn't affect a Meridian or a Boise because to get 8%, you got to build another Boise or another Meridian. But this, and a good example is the city of Greenleaf, which had 300 dwelling units.
I think Star had the same issue.
Correct. And Star had a creative thing that we can get into later, but here's the point. If you have a city that has 300 dwelling units and you have a proposed 100-unit subdivision that wants to annex in, that is a 33% increase. Is it 100 units over 300? It's 1/3, 33% increase. If that city uses its property tax revenue to contract with a city, with a county or another city for police services, and police services are population driven, then a 33% increase in the number of dwellings or a 33% increase in the number of occupants or residents in the city should equate to a 33 or so % increase in the cost of law enforcement.
Mhm.
Yet, House Bill 389 said thou shalt be no more than 8%. At which point a city with 300 dwelling units facing that would either have to eat that or increase its taxes or cut services. So the city of Mountain Home at one point had 2 city police officers per 1,000 people. It has inched away from that. We were at 2 for years, and this is an extremely safe city from a policing standpoint. We're now at 1.8 or 1.7 police officers per 1,000. In other words, the level of service as they're measured by these folks, that's the way we measure that level of service for police. It's more complicated with streets and fire, is now down to 1.7. It's dipped.
So then it makes no difference then the volume. Is that what I'm hearing?
Explain that more.
So kind of what I was what I'm understanding. Because initially I thought, well, the volume, right? Because if we do bring in kind of like what you said, 100 or 400 units or whatever, that should, in theory, those impact fees should pay for the growth, right? Should pay for that growth. And then whatever they end up paying in property taxes thereafter should be paying for those things. But if we grow kind of like what you said by 33%, we're only getting 8% from that new construction in tax revenue in the future.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yep. And-
Okay. So the volume, while initially makes sense and makes an impact, at the end of the day, down the road, it doesn't.
Correct.
Just the initial.
Sustainability to be able to pay for it in the out years declines.
So kind of like what Erica said, then it's like in the initial, that's when we get that revenue, and then, but that goes to all sorts of different things.
So here's something to think about. I know that it's not currently on the CIP, but wastewater, for example, we know that there's going to be a major upgrade and a need for the wastewater. Currently, the only way to pay for that is taxing the systems because we have nothing, or we find grants or something like that outside of this. Putting an impact fee in place that would then go towards that would alleviate a lot of that cost and keep the tax down on the city, which makes your people a lot happier.
Can we use it for that? Can we use the CIPs for wastewater?
Yes.
Not yet.
Yeah, but
Right now,
not yet,
yeah.
but with that
If we
conversation.
did.
Okay.
The other option that's available, because again, this is for impact fees are for things that are already in the city or with annexation. But if you annex something that's a problem or that's going to create a problem, you can by ordinance develop or enter into an annexation agreement or a development agreement, or you can create an annexation fee that offsets some of these that's outside the ambit of this impact fee rigmarole that you have to go through. So if we're going to bring something in, we can say, you know what, we can't get this on this end. Now, whether that equates into long-term revenue stream or just one-offs, but you control whether or not somebody can annex into your city. Well, the governing body does ultimately, but your recommendation can have something to do with it, which is why there's a trailer park that hasn't got annexed yet, because they got to get everything straightened out. Then they can come in, because we're not going to absorb that problem without it being fixed or the monetary resources we need to fix it.
It's all very interesting. I'm trying to understand.
Here's one, and this is a squirrel, but you may have noticed the list of things that you can use impact fees for. There's one that's not on there that's pretty glaring. Schools.
Oh.
And okay, anyway, it's not gonna be, so don't. It's not gonna be, not in the near future. So
Jeff, at the moment on our agenda, this is an action item to review and recommendation comments to the amend existing impact fee study and capital improvement. We still have 2 more to get through for discussion and discussion decision. What action needs to be taken place on this one?
you need to write written comments about this to the city council. You need to say, yep, loved it, wouldn't change a thing. This is great. I recommend that you guys do it, or whatever you
Is
want
this
to
an individual or as a governing body, or not a governing body, as
as an impact fee advisory committee, or you can do it individually, whichever you want. One of you can draft it and circulate it through staff, and you can say, yeah, love it, sign it.
And also
Um,
make comments.
You can each write comments and put them together and then sign it and send it, but we gotta have written comments to the governing body.
timeline?
You want to, if you can get them done by 7.
Rob, you're doing great over there. You want to go ahead and start working on typing up that? Just kidding.
Can we just say, okay?
That'd be great,
Is that-
but as soon as possible. I can't recall the exact timeline. Council needs to notice up. They have to publish twice, a public hearing for the CIP. And so they need those comments for that.
Okay, commission, do you want to do it as one body or do you want to do it individually and
So the options basically are we gather the information within a week's time, or we create a special meeting to specifically only talk about this.
Well, technically, this is your special meeting to talk about it.
But wouldn't we have to pull the data? Cause I would like to know like where we are. Like these are 2021, 2030, right? Dates? We're in
These are the
between.
updated that has been done.
So what has happened here is you've inherited a capital improvement plan that was done by the city in 2021. The city hired its consultant, who is required by statute to be the professional in this realm, to update it to reflect their professional opinion. You can match it with yours. But your task is to review that, see if it matches what you think the way the world works, and then write your comments on it. Including any comments you might have about anything else in it. So,
Just to add to the context, the 2021 and the 2031 numbers did not change. What we will do is update all those projections in the comprehensive update. But because you'll see, if you look at the calculations, that 2031 population number was essentially the denominator in all the fee calculations. And so if we move that number at all, you're going to move
Everything
all
else
the
will change.
fee amounts, which we're hoping not to do during this siloed effort, admin chain, revision, and really get into the weeds during that.
so this update does two major things, or two important things, which is specify land use assumptions over a 20-year period, and then start and finish dates for the capital improvement plot projects. Those are the two main things, and one is a little tweak to a couple numbers that had a clerical error. So yeah, so if you have comments about those land use assumptions, then those are useful for the governing body to consider in adopting this prior to its public hearing.
Still takes me back to, are we going to do it as an entire?
I think we should. It should be unanimous.
Altogether,
Altogether?
altogether with,
That means we all have to come to an agreement?
yeah.
Sure.
Today or special meeting? Because we still have two more to go through. I have my thoughts on the other two.
Well, for this one, it would be, let's make a plan of agreeing that we come together and we send one into Brenda.
Mm-hmm.
And not, it won't be an individual thing. It'll be as a
Yeah,
committee.
right.
Is that good with you, Brenda?
Do you want us to send, so each one of us individually will send our comments to you.
Mhm.
And we will
I can write something up as
draft
a
a cohesive document.
question, yes, so that we do not forum with email. How do we have that discussion in an email?
You don't, you send your draft comments to Brenda. She compiles them, then she sends them. You're gonna have a special meeting.
I was thinking we would meet, and then write something at that time.
You can be as robust as you want in your draft, and then you send to her, and then she can consolidate them all, send them back out to you.
So they can, to be clear, so they can send me their drafts individually.
Mhm.
And then I can take those drafts and I can send those to Topher. And then Topher can compile
Yep.
everything from those drafts into one document. We come back.
Yep.
He presents that document. Is this what you wanted to say? And yes, no.
Yep.
And you can change that on the spot. If you have your computer, we can change it that day. And
I think that would drag it out longer than if we just met for 30 minutes
No,
or going back and forth on email.
that would give us each the opportunity to make the research that we need to do, send our comments to Brenda. Brenda compiles them, sends them to Topher. And then if Topher has any questions, then he reaches out to us. I think
or we can address them at the
we
meeting.
can address them at the meeting and then, yeah, make the changes as needed.
That makes sense. That's what you're saying.
Correct. We only do one meeting a month, but you can have a special meeting. So if will take you 2 weeks, if you want 2 weeks, so you have a week to get your comments together, or, it doesn't have to be that, just, whatever works to getting all that information together, you compiling it and get it back. So you want to give yourself some time as well.
Let's shoot for making sure that we have everything compiled and put together by next meeting.
By the 27th?
Yes.
By January 27th,
No, by our next planning and zoning.
February,
So you want this to go on the next,
so the 17th?
Yes,
Okay.
unless you guys want to do a special meeting before then.
Well, when do we have to have it into this?
ASAP, as soon as we're able to.
Right.
I think,
I
I
think,
believe that you were shooting for somewhere around February with this.
Second February meeting, which is
Yeah, I don't have a calendar.
I have it. So,
Sounds like a special meeting. Or something.
on the 9th or the 23rd?
yeah, so we have, so Tuesday the 3rd, Tuesday the 10th, Tuesday the 17th.
Keeping in mind, city council meets,
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
10th and the 4th.
so,
it doesn't have to be a Tuesday if we have the council chambers available.
I mean, next week is open. I don't know for how long, but it's open.
Okay, then do you want to shoot for having all the information into Lisa or to Brenda so that she can get it to me by the 27th? We're gonna have a special meeting on the 27th.
Yes. I think, unless.
27th of January?
Is that a city council
It's
meeting
a
date?
city council
That's
meeting.
the city council,
That's
yeah.
yeah.
So we would have to do it the 20,
17th.
Sorry. so we would have to do it the 26th or the 29th. If we're aiming for next week. The 26th is a Monday, or the 29th, which is a Thursday.
I can't do the 29th. I can do the 26th though.
I can do the 26th.
I'm okay with the 26th.
Monday.
You could?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
What
Next
time?
week I'm gone, but
And do you have a deadline when you want to get those written comments to me?
Written comments by Friday.
Early.
Just feel school teacher emerged.
I'm ready to move on to our next ones because we got lots of conversations.
Yep, we do.
yes,
So do we need to make a
yeah,
motion
that,
for that?
you'll make a. That's different.
Action item, I would.
Along with the,
We can tee up their public hearing.
along with the ordinance as well.
Yeah, if we're gonna do a motion on those dates because it is an action item, so we're actually gonna put a motion forward.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to present our commentary to Brenda by Friday, the 24th,
23rd.
23rd. And to compile all of our comments by Monday, the 26th, at which time we will meet for a special meeting at 5:30 at City Hall chambers.
But first, we have a second.
Aye.
Second by Billy. We're gonna do all in favor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. Move down to our next action item. Alan, thank you so much. Appreciate your work. man.
Yeah,
hope
hope to see you guys soon.
Action item for discussion is the Elmore County Capital Improvement Plan for EMS and participated by Elmore County.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Abby Janine with Elam Burr out of Boise. I will try and make my presentation very short. You've heard the meat of this, dealing with it with the mountain home impact fees. I think the big distinctions here are that there are services that are provided by the county to the city that are not paid for by the city. Those are sheriff, jail, and EMS. Throughout discussions with the city council and the planning and zoning commission and the advisory committee of Mountain Home over the course of the last several years, it was determined by those bodies that we should pursue moving forward with adopting the CIP for the county EMS. So the county, just to give a little bit of background, has gone through the same process that Mountain Home has with establishing their CIP for impact fees. In fact, the same consultant helped us with that in 2021 when we put those numbers together. And also, sorry, I should also introduce James Rodden, Planning Director with Elmore County, and Alan Roberts, EMS Director. So throughout the course of that process, we ran into the same administrative issues that Jeff has brought to light for the city related to those two addendums that you saw in the CIP. The land use assumptions for 20 years and the construction schedule start and stop dates. So the county recently went through the same process of adopting those amendments to add an additional 10 years to the land use assumption timeline, as well as adding a schedule for the construction. So what the county is requesting is an adoption of only the EMS impact fee. The discussion again with the city council and the prior planning and zoning commission and impact advisory committee was that the jail and sheriff impact fees would be evaluated and looked at a later time. And so the information that you have in front of you that I believe was provided in your packet just discusses the changes that the county has made to that EMS CIP, the process that's gotten us there, and then what is needed to move forward. So I don't think Jeff has maybe touched on this yet, but in order for the city to adopt impact fees for the county for those services that are not otherwise paid for by city impact fees, there has to be an adoption of the county CIP for that related impact fee or service. And there has to be an intergovernmental agreement between the county and the city in order to adopt those impact fees. So once this governing body provides comments on the county CIP and adoption of that to the city council, and if the city council adopts the EMS impact fee, then Jeff and I will work to finalize the intergovernmental agreement to actually implement collection of those impact fees. So I'm happy to answer questions that the committee may have. I would, before I jump into answering questions, I would just note a couple comments that I heard from the committee and the commission while you were talking about the city impact fees. So the county service area is obviously the entire county, right? So to your questions about where are these improvements going to be made, they're going to be made in the county as needed. And if you look at the anticipated schedule of construction, what it's going to show you is that depending on where those impact fees are collected, so if there's county impact fees that are collected in more of the region of the city of Mountain Home, we're going to know that the growth is occurring in the city of Mountain Home, and therefore we're going to want to plan to have that improvement. For example, a new substation in that area. So that's how the county will contemplate how it allocates areas of improvement with the collected impact fees. The county has a joint impact fee advisory committee. So it consists of various members within the community. And also, anytime we make decisions, we invite the advisory committee for Mountain Home, Glens Ferry, and the other districts that are also involved in the county impact fees, which include King Hill Rural Fire and Mountain Home Rural Fire. A note on those two districts, those entities have already adopted the impact fees for the county, and there's intergovernmental agreements between King Hill and Mountain Home Rural Fire. So that has already been done. Any question? I'll maybe pause there and answer any questions that the commission might have so far.
Anything? Oh, that's green. Those two are not green.
I'll talk louder.
Okay.
I can hear you.
There you go.
So currently, the current impact fees that come out of the city development, none of that goes towards EMS.
No, so Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that's a really good question. None of the city impact fees that are currently collected go to any of the county provided services. Back to Jeff's comment about where impact fees in the city can be used, they can only be used within that service area. And the service area for the city of Mount Home is the city limits.
So what you're wanting to do is add to the impact fees collected, a portion of that to go to EMS.
Yes, it wouldn't be out of the fees that have been talked about. It would be a separate fee only for the county services provided. And we can talk more about House Bill 389 and other constraints, but in essence, we're having the same exact issue. The demand on county services, and Alan can speak to this certainly, are growing to the point that it is reducing that level of service. And there's nothing that we can do with the tax increases to make up for that. And Mountain Home is the fastest growing area in the county. So it's really the reason it's so important that Mountain Home adopt the county impact fee is so that we can maintain that level of service for the county provided services, EMS specifically.
Does the county's impact fees have a designated spot for EMS already? It
Yeah.
does. So rumor has it Mayfield is not part of that impact fee because they are required to have their own EMS services. Is that true?
Nope, they pay impact fees.
Yes. Mayfield not only pays impact fees, but they also pay a rooftop fee specifically for sheriff and EMS and fire services. So because we knew that Mayfield would have such a disproportionate impact on the county compared to other development, just based on its size, we implemented through a development agreement that they would not only pay impact fees, but that they would also pay a rooftop fee. In addition, they also built a substation for the county out in Mayfield. So to the extent that you look at the planned construction for public improvements out of county impact fees, Mayfield isn't going to impact that because Mayfield has its own substation already built.
Okay. Second question then is, with Elmore Ambulance Service, the EAS, not having impact fees from the city because it was a county, not an organization, it would be a county,
District?
yeah. What percentage of the calls are in Mountain Home?
Close 70%.
Okay.
And just for the record, the last 3 or 4 years, we've been well over 3,000 calls a year just for ambulance service, and 70 is inside the city limits. And we did that study when we started all this just to see what the impact was. And obviously this is our growth area, and you guys know that as well as anybody with what's been going on and that's what we're up against.
So you folks know as members of the P and Z, but also as the Impact Fee Advisory Committee, what has happened was the city and county, or the county 3 years ago or 4 years ago, approached this with the assumption that they could adopt a countywide impact fee and be able to charge it inside the city limits. That was not a correct legal assumption. And so it was only way through this process when Glens Ferry started to try to implement them that we realized there is a legal prohibition on that. And that is a county ordinance cannot be and is not effective inside the city limits in either of the two incorporated cities in Elmore County. In other words, the only way you can assess and make paid an impact fee that isn't voluntary through an agreement, in other words, to make it mandatory that you don't get a building permit until you pay this fee, is through the enactment of an ordinance through the development impact fee statute. In order for that statute to be correct, in order for that ordinance to be correct, it has to comply with the statute, and you have to adopt an ordinance that's effective inside the city limits. In order to adopt an ordinance for impact fees in the city limits, you have to have an impact fee advisory committee, you have to adopt a capital improvement plan. You have to do this all in each of the incorporated cities, duplicating exactly that which the county has already done. So Abby and I discovered this little hiccup, or this gigantic hiccup, quite a ways through it. So there's been a little bit of blaming of the city for foot dragging, when in fact it's a legal impediment that would have required us to refund those fees had we collected them improperly or denied someone a building permit. So we're just trying to do this through the statutory process. So you'll see that what's in front of you is a request to adopt what's now a legally compliant capital improvement plan, similar to the one that the city is amending, so that the city can engage in amending its development impact fee ordinance and entering into an intergovernmental agreement to assess these fees, to pay for them. So you're the key role in this, in terms of the same homework that you've got for the 26th for the city's one, you probably got for this one as well, if you choose to adopt it that way and send those written comments to the city.
To be perfectly clear, we have 70% of services going to Mountain Home within the county, correct? For emergency services, emergency ambulance services. Okay. So this is just so that I can understand and the people that are watching us can understand a little bit better. So because of that, we are adopting a CIP for the county, right? With an agreement, which I mean, I've been reading on this, and that's the only way that we can do this, because it's not part of, like, it's not legal, basically, unless we enter into an agreement. But at the end of the day, because we have 70% of the calls going to Mountain Home, at the end of the day, development is still paying for the growth and the services that we need for Mountain Home. And the county will be allocating whatever it is that they need. So whether it's another substation in Mountain Home within the city limits, but it's a county, because I mean, the jail's within city limits. So
Or Pine or Featherville.
exactly.
Or Hammond,
So
yes.
whatever that
Mhm.
is, but then at that point, you guys would enter into agreements with those cities as well. So if you're looking at putting in a substation, this is what I'm trying to understand. If you're looking at putting in a substation in Glens Ferry, because now Glens Ferry is the new Mountain Home, so then now you're entering that agreement with Glens Ferry and not necessarily Mountain Home paying for Glens Ferry's new substation. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So if I understand the question correctly, the county will be allocating the collected county impact fees to where the necessary growth is. So if Glens Ferry suddenly became the new Mountain Home and 70% of the calls were at Glens Ferry, now again, it's not the county making that decision on its own. It's your board, Glens Ferry's advisory committee board, the county's advisory committee board, looking at this going, we recommend that this next capital improvement happen in Glens Ferry or
Got it.
Mountain Home. So it is, the county just takes the recommendations of the advisory committees on that.
Okay. Because I really just wanted to understand that. So they're not just, and again, it's for my understanding and for the people that are watching us understanding, because I know there's been some heated conversations that I've heard. But so then at this point, it's the county is not just taking these funds and just going, we're just going to allocate them wherever we want. It's like you guys are actually sitting down with these boards in every one of the cities within Elmore County.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, we actually started collecting impact fees in 2023. So far, there has been no allocation or distribution of impact fees.
Okay.
Frankly, we don't have enough, right?
Right.
And a lot of that is because we're not collecting from Mountain Home, and the need is in Mountain Home, right? So if we look at where would we build something tomorrow, it would likely be very close to Mountain Home,
Got
if
it.
not in Mountain Home. So when we get to the point where we have enough revenue and we have enough impact fees in the account, then we can come to the advisory committees and say, we're looking at this and we can tell we've gathered most of these impact fees from Mountain Home. And we know that because we're collecting those impact fees from Mountain Home, the growth is happening in Mountain Home. Therefore, we recommend that you make this improvement in Mountain
Mr. Chairman.
Mhm.
So in the process of entering into an intergovernmental agreement to do these, you will be required to create a joint development impact fee advisory committee. In other words, you'll be part of the impact fee advisory committee for the county.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll still have, as will Glens Ferry, should they adopt these. So in other words, that continuing monitoring that I explained earlier about annually updating it, annually advising the governing bodies. In this case, you'll be advising two governing bodies. You'll be advising the City of Mountain Home, and you'll be advising the county commissioners. So as you monitor growth, and you see where the growth is happening, you'll still have some strings to pull in terms of updating the CIP going, oh, the growth is all occurring over there. You should expend the money there because again, uh, uh, your statutory call under 8205 is to continually advise the governmental entity of the need to update or revise land use assumptions and report to the governmental entity any perceived inequities in implementing the plan. So that's your charge by statute. And so you'll be part of a joint development impact fee advisory committee. So in addition to P&Z meetings and these, you might get one more to go to.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
and just to be clear on that, Abby, so if Glens Ferry, you're collecting impact fees from Glens Ferry, those fees that are collected from that area could be utilized in Mountain Home if the need is there.
Yes, absolutely, because keep in mind, the goal is to maintain the service level for the entire service boundary.
Right.
And for the county, it's all of the county. So if you have a demand in, Mountain Home, but you have Glens Ferry paying impact fees, well, if you don't do something to improve the level of, maintain the level of service, excuse me, then you're gonna have Glens Ferry is gonna feel that, right? So yes, impact fees paid by any other constituent in unincorporated Elmore County or other cities within Elmore County will go into the pot. And then that pot will be used for wherever that most needed improvement is first.
Nope. You're the one with all the words in that, so I'm like,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. It's
I just-
good stuff.
Again, I just wanted to be, I wanted to understand.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I think just another point to emphasize, and I know this has already been touched on, but impact fees can only be used for capital improvements, obviously, the CIP. They can't be used for operation and maintenance. So when you think about, well, why can't we handle this with property taxes? Well, most of the time, one, there's not enough to go around. And the impact fees can only be used for capital improvements. So yes, we'll definitely try and use taxes for the O&M that's increasing, but we need additional help as it relates to actual infrastructure.
So this is, and again, for the people that are watching us and everything, so this is like new substations. This is like, just improvements that are really these larger scaled improvements for our county services, which right now would be ambulance.
Yeah, so with significant growth going towards the south side of town, they see that that's where the growth is. Another substation can be put in for ambulance on that side of town.
Yeah.
And our part in our CIP is set up because like fire can use that money for a fire truck. They're pushing $1 million now for a fire truck. Ambulance is pushing 350, 400,000. You have to buy one of those. So the two big parts of our service is building the property and the ambulance. So if we can get to where we can purchase those, then the rest of it we have to maintain with the other part. But just those are the main parts in our CIP compared to, like the others are a lot more entailed to, bulldozers for streets or whatever. They're big ticket items. Pretty limited because of the way the statute is set up. A lot better than zero.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the information that was included in your packet from the county was just the addendums that we needed to do in order to make it statutorily compliant. If you actually look at the full CIP of the county, you will actually see the list of improvements for each of those categories. So you'll see that spelled out. You'll see the costs. That's obviously how those numbers were calculated, was taking what are the capital improvements that will be needed spread out on those growth forecasts.
Chairman Board, if I could add one more thing just for your thought process. One of the big talks with this deal is we're also able to joint venture with other entities as well that would help cost share. So if there was a need on the west side of town for a fire, police, EMS substation where maybe 2 or 3 entities can join together, be able to put something together, share the cost, share the wealth.
That's also a part of that setup as well. So it's not just, well, we're gonna go build a building and a fire station across the street and a new police station on the other corner. Maybe it's, look, we've got a little money, you've got some money, and you've got some money. Let's put that together and make the best deal for the buck. So, that's something to think about as well. So very easy on our side that's always been on the table. So.
So as long as there's an intergovernmental, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Joint powers agreement, intergovernmental agreement. They're
Yeah.
all things only attorneys love, but they,
Oh,
they
I
keep,
bet you
well,
can't
they,
wait.
they keep everybody on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we agreed to do X. Well, at least you can look at the document and think, well, you might have been, misinformed, but
Yeah.
There's a lot.
there's a lot.
And for
anyway.
the record, this is just adopting Elmore County CIP for EMS and
Right, right.
nothing.
Correct.
Just so people who are watching understand, we're not adopting everything, just the Elmore County EMS side of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the hope really was having this new advisory committee established, that we can get together with the other advisory committee boards and really start digging into the other aspects of jail and sheriff and start looking at those to make potential revisions if the board decides and deems that necessary. So hopeful that we will get to a place of that the city will get to a place of adopting sheriff and jail impact fees, but that won't occur until there's some joint meetings between advisory committees.
So Jeff, this is our decision to make, right? Or does this have to go to council as well? Because it says decision.
Decision on your written comments to the same thing as the other one. So your decision on rendering written comments, because what's going to be teed up as well is a hearing notice. Again, adopting a CAP requires notice and a public hearing by the governing body. And so we wanted to get your written comments to the governing body so that they could tee up a public hearing for this if they choose to do so.
In that case, Commission, I'm going to suggest that we also make sure that we have our comments for this item as well in by Friday. And then we can have, take care of all that, put it all together. By Monday's
I
meeting.
gave you all a lot to consider. If you feel like that timeline is sufficient to get all your thoughts together, and considering the minutes that I've provided for you and the written comments from the prior DIFAC, then you could certainly add that to that same agenda.
So we do not need a motion for discussion. However, I will take a motion for any kind of written comments placed in.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to submit our written comments to Brenda no later than Friday, 26th January. 23rd January. In preparation for the meeting on Monday, the special meeting on Monday, the 26th.
Concerning. Okay.
EMS CIP. Thank you.
Okay, I have a first, I have a second.
Second.
Okay, good. We'll go second, but Rob. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Perfect.
Well, Mr. Chair, I do want to just spell out that, we're getting comments on Friday, a meeting on Monday. So there'll be nothing in a packet to give you. You simply will have an agenda.
That's good to me.
Okay, so you'll get first look at those on that Monday.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, appreciate it.
Nice to meet you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any final comments, Commission? Hearing none, ladies and gentlemen, we'll adjourn 7:00.